Hi AP students, I am preparing your solutions to the quiz prep and I thought that there was no reason for me not to just record myself while I was doing it. So let's do it. String A and string B are two strings. Create a method that takes two strings as arguments and returns whichever one is smaller in dictionary order. Okay, cool. So public, we could make this static or non-static, up to us. It's going to return whichever string is smaller. So I want string, and I will call this compare strings. And it's going to take two strings as inputs. Use the string's built-in compare to method in my solution. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to compare string A to string B and return whichever is smallest. So I'll say if A.compare to B. So let's see, if this is bigger than 1, that must mean that A is larger than B, so I should return B. Otherwise, I'll just return A. And this, so it will return A if either A is smaller or if A is equal to B, but in either case, it's the same outcome. So let's get this ready to go. All right, solution finished. What is each of the following? All right, so I've got the portrayal of the relationships between Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee may be characterized as a bromance. True. For each of the following, state compile time error if the method call is incorrect, or state the return value if the method call is correct. Okay. So index of O. Well, this is a compile time error because I don't have a string that I am searching for the index of this string inside of. So this is compile time error. Okay, this is better because I'm asking this string to execute the index of method, and I'm looking for the first index of the word the. But it's t. It's a lowercase t, so it's not here. So this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right, so 17. So this will return 17 because index of returns the index of the first occurrence of this. All right. Substring from 4 to 8. All right, so let's find index 4. That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So index 4 is this lowercase p. So this returns, so this is 4, 5, 6, 7. This 8 is the index that I'm evaluating, the last index that I'm evaluating it at, but I don't actually return the character at index 8, so I only do 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, this is an invalid call. I mean, I've got a string and I've got two indices here, but this is just not the right way to use this method because this is not a static method. You have to run the method on an object. So this is compile time error. All right, so here I'm getting the substring from one place to another place. So what is index of capital F? That should give me the index of the first capital F that happens. So it looks like that happens right here. I don't really know what index of, I don't really know what index this is, but it doesn't really matter because I'm just using that as the starting place in my substring. So my substring is going to start where this first F is, and then it's going to end 5 characters after that index. So if I'm looking at where that F in Frodo begins, and I'm going to go 5 letters, this is going to return F-R-O-D-O. Except it's really just going to say, wait a minute. Yeah, it's gonna return the full Frodo. Because if we think of this as index 0, and this is 5 more than 0, I know that the total length should be 5, but it's not gonna return the character at that last spot. All right. So here I'm starting at F, and I'm going to string.index of p. Well, where does p happen? It looks like the first p happens here. So this is going to be the index of this F in Frodo, and then I'm starting my substring there, and I'm ending up at the first P, which is way back here. This is not illegal. I can make this method call, so it's not compile time error, but it's going to return the empty string because I'm asking it to start at a larger index than it's ending at, so it's just going to immediately return empty string. All right, let's do this one. Consider the following method. Get string, I got 2 inputs, it's returning a string. I am finding the location where this second string starts in the first string. And then I'm getting the substring from that first one, starting at where S2 is and going for the full length of S2. So this seems like a ridiculous method because it seems like I'm going to get a substring out of the first one consisting of just this second substring where it occurs in the first one. Which is true about, all right, it may return a string that is equal to S2. Yes, it might return that. It's going to return that exactly when S2 occurs in S1. All right, it has no character, so it may return a string that has no characters in common with S2. Is that a possibility? I think this is not a possibility. And I think this is not a possibility either. Here's why. I'm thinking about other possible cases. So what if S2 never occurs inside of S1? In that case, this index of is going to return -1 to index. And then I'm going to get a substring starting at -1. Well, that's an invalid index for this string, so it would just throw an exception. It wouldn't return anything in that case. And then this is just right out. Oh, no, it might return it equal to S1. Hold on, I'm not thinking creatively enough. So what if S1 is exactly the same string as S2? In that case, it would return a string that was equal to S1 because S1 is exactly the same as S2. All right, so I think 1 and 3 only. So I think A is the solution. And I'm going to make these closer together. All right, consider the following name class. All right, I've got name. It's implementing comparable. It's this parameterized version of comparable. I've got a first name and a last name. I want a compare to method that's going to compare them in like last name, first name order. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make an integer that's the result of comparing last names to each other. So I'm going to say this dot last name dot compare to other dot last name. So again, these are strings, so they have a built-in compare to method. And if last equal, all right, so if last does not equal 0, then I just want to return last. Because the idea is this is telling me which last name is larger. If the two last names are equal, then I'm going to have to compare first names, so I don't know which name is bigger. But if this result of last is not equal to 0, then I know that whichever one was larger, that's what I want to return as the answer for which name is bigger. All right, so if I get down to here, that means that last was equal to 0, which means that last name was the same as the other last name. So in this case, I want to return the result of first name compared to first name. Because this is other dot first name. Because this is comparing how's my name compared to their first name. If our first names are equal, then I actually do want to return 0 because our last names would have been equal and our first names would have been equal, so our names are equal, and that's a possibility. Otherwise, I want to return whoever's first name. I want to indicate that whoever's first name was bigger, that's whose name is bigger. All right, so I think that's a complete solution now. Let's look at number 5. All right, so I'm implementing a linear equation class, which represents that thing. Did I have any questions about static methods in here? Not really. All right, let's make up a couple. Let's do this one first. So I'm going to implement linear equation. All right, public class linear equation. And it's going to have private double for M and B. And I'm going to have a constructor where I'll say this dot M is M and this dot B is B. Cool. I'm not going to space this, but I still want it to be my nice fixed width font. All right, let's implement the methods that it's requesting. So get slope. So get slope is just going to be M. All right, cool. Evaluate at. Let's do that one. So if I'm evaluating at x, I just want to return the result of mx plus b. So that's m times x plus b. All right, I've evaluated it and I'm returning it. Cool. Let's do our parallel before we do the compare to. So this one's static. And I take two linear equations. And I just want to return if E1 dot get slope equals E2 dot get slope. Because that's asking, are the slopes the same? And if the answer is yes, I want to return yes for the question, are they parallel? If the slopes are not the same, this will evaluate to false, so I'd want to return false for the answer to are they parallel. Notice that I'm only using getSlope on the two objects that got sent to me as arguments. The reason why is because this is a static method, so I don't have access to any instance variables up here because it is not an instance of the class that's running this method. It's the class itself that's running the method. All right. Last but not least, we want to say it's implements comparable, which means that down here we've got to say public int compare to. I'll take an object E as an argument. The first thing I'll do is I'll make a linear equation other that casts E to be a linear equation. And I want to compare them on the basis of what? Slope. All right, so I'll say if my slope, this dot m, is larger than other dot m, I'll use getSlope, that's probably safer. Other dot getSlope, then I'll return 1. If other dot getSlope is larger than my getSlope, then I'll return -1 because they're bigger. Otherwise, I'll return 0. All right. So far, so good. Let's remember the test for whether a method can be static. If you're thinking about should a method be static, you want to think, can this method run without an object running it? And by object, I mean instance, without an instance of an object running it. And if the answer is yes, then it could be static. examples of static methods. So one way that you can tell right away that it should not be static is if you use any instance variables of the object. If you're getting things or setting things from your object, can't be static because you need the object in order to access its variables. If it feels like, if you're doing things with variables that don't feel like part of an individual object, they feel like general facts that like all the objects might share in common, then it could be static. All right, I think that might be everything. Good luck on the quiz.